Russ had a big win this week where he finally got approved on Google Local Services. We had to celebrate that because we all
Sometimes
know
the beast.
how challenging that can be. And this is, Russ, you can kind of share that you
Yeah,
had to like change licenses over and stuff like that to get it done.
yeah, I did. Because I bought the company and the previous owner was holding the license, and I have a GM that has a license, so I had to do some switches to kind of get it to work out and have Google Local Services approve it because they are the almighty.
I love the way you put that. They are, I tell people all day long, Google gets to make the rules. I'm sorry. Like, we just got to do it. But Russ, I'm excited that you're finally on Google Local Services. It's a huge win. What other wins do we have going on here today, guys? Jordan, I see the hand up. I love it. What's good? What's going on?
Hey, so yesterday was my birthday, and Travis has been talking to me about obsessing over reviews. And so I had multiple people reach out, of course. And so I told my wife, I'm like, hey, I'm just going to start asking for reviews for my birthday. And and so I was like, if you don't do anything else for me, I would love a review for my business
I love
profile
that.
for my birthday. And I got like 20, I think 21 reviews yesterday
Oh
to
my
our
gosh.
Nashville profile. And so so a little pro tip plus win there. But I told my wife, I'm like, I think my birthday is going to be every day of the year now, because now, because I was like, wow, if we could do that every day, look at what we could do.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so that was a blast.
Jordan, I
Nice.
love that. Congratulations and happy belated birthday. That's probably one of the best birthday presents you could get. Is 20 plus Google reviews. That's phenomenal.
Totally, it's reviews and time. Those are the two things
Yes.
for me.
Yes. Oh, Jordan, that is phenomenal. I love to hear it. And I think that also goes to prove that a lot of times even more so than incentivizing the customer feeling
Hmm.
indebted to you tends to result in more reviews than even offering them a discount or a giveaway or something. Like if your technicians are saying, hey, it really helps me out. In fact, I get a little bit of a bonus. Or in fact, we have a competition every month. I would really like to win one of the guys. They win every single month. I just want to dethrone them. Would you mind leaving me a review? We see people a lot of times leaving more reviews for that
Mhm.
than you offering them money or something like that. And so love that, Jordan. Love it. What other wins do we got going on today, guys?
I put a QR code for reviews on my phone.
Yes. With you always.
Yep.
Always there.
So, and I mean, it's kind of what I'm doing is I'm showing it to people like at networking events, and I'll let them know, hey, this is a QR code to leave me a review. You know, we've known each other, whatever, 10 years, whatever. You can leave a review on someone's character and how well you know them in the aspects that you know them about. So, do you have a QR reader on your phone? Of course, everybody does. And then they
Yeah.
pull their phone out and they do it, and then they're in there leaving me a review. It's just really assumptive. It's a very assumptive way to do it. So it's worked for me.
Love that, Jeff. Yes.
I have never seen someone do that, but I love that idea because we really talk about how the best way to get a review. Oh my gosh, Chad Kulichek is here. Dude, Chad, good to see you, man. Wow. Um, Chad's worked with us for a really, really long time, and I haven't seen his face in a minute. So it's good to see you, man. Um, all that to say is that we really encourage people, hey, software, can help you get reviews. We run email and text campaigns for you guys that can help get reviews. The very best way to get a review is when you or a member of your staff or the technician is in front of the homeowner. The thing I love about the QR code sticker is it allows the technician or staff member on your team or yourself to just ask the customer, hey, could you leave us a Google review? You can just use this QR code in order to get to our Google review page, and you immediately initiate the review gathering right in that moment. That's why I love that idea. So, Jeff, I hope you don't mind. We might just shamelessly take that from you and start encouraging everybody to do it.
Absolutely.
We're trying something new this week. Instead of going prepared to take payment with the customer right off, I've asked him to ask them, hey, while you're, I got to get your stuff pulled up. While I'm doing that, would you mind taking a minute and leaving us a review? So we're going to try that out this week and see how that works, because it'll actually give them something to do while we do that, instead of getting it prepped and then going up to them like we had been doing. So we're changing that to see how that does this week.
Another great suggestion. Again, the best way for you to get reviews really, really fast. Most of you guys are regularly in a customer's house every week, right? Construction guys, it's a little less frequent than a service guy, but still, you're regularly in a customer's home. When something good's happened, when they're impressed with the job, when they are singing your praises to you, or, oh my gosh, this is great, thank you so much, that's always the time to ask, right? So you just say, hey, it's an honor to serve you. By the way, would you take a second to leave us a Google review? Like Jordan said, you can combine both ideas. I got to get your final stuff pulled up here. By the way, I got this QR code right on my phone or right on my tablet. You can just scan this with your phone to get to our Google review page. It makes it really easy. Here you go. Bam, okay, let me finish pulling out the stuff. And before you leave, you got a review. So, James, what's up, buddy? Oh, you're muted, brother. I like what you got, though.
So it's just a little business card. So everybody's got one. It's got a QR code on one side and then just an RFID chip that you can just tap and go, and it pops up on their phone to leave reviews. So we just got these in this past week. So we're going to see how those go for us.
That is cool. I've not seen that.
And Jay is the man when it comes to remodelers getting reviews. He started with, I don't know, 10 reviews, and now he's sitting at 122 over the last 5-6 months here.
Ooh.
He's the king.
We need to make a client like a case study of just review gathering for a construction business, because I mean, I cannot tell you the pushback I get from construction businesses about, and it is maybe harder than a service business, but that's amazing. 120 reviews, dude, that's amazing.
So it's called a review boost card, and they were like 5 of them for like $30 or something. So just FYI for everybody.
Thank you, sir.
I had 0 reviews in January and I have 12 now.
There you go. There you go, Jeff. Yeah, that's a 1,200% increase right there. Very proud of you, man. Okay, anything else? Any other wins? Good stuff happening.
And it doesn't have to be Google reviews.
Yeah.
By the way.
Chad, how are you doing, man? Unmute your mic and give us an update.
I'm doing great. Doing just fine. I just, for months, been invited to show up to one of these meetings. So I decided to check in for the first time, see what it's all about.
Well, you came to a really good meeting today, man. We're doing a special kind of group call today. So hopefully that's part of the reason why you showed up. But yeah, it's good to see you. Okay, well, speaking of which, I want to jump in here. If you got wins or stuff that you want to share, you can throw it in the chat. So like I just told Chad, we're doing something special today, and something that I want to make more normal. If you're in the group call last week, we talked about, it seemed like we got positive reception from everybody about maybe doing 2 separate group calls a week, one for service business, one for construction businesses. We are planning on doing that. Would like to see that implemented, by the end of this month, but we'll give you guys notice ahead of time whenever that transition is made. It's not something we're doing yet, but going to be moving there. And another part of what we're wanting to do is, I remember Laura Pierce of Pierce Electric in the Bay Area. She said last week, well, I still really like, meeting all, together as clients, because there's often insights that are shared that are applicable to both kinds of businesses, both a service and a construction business. And that's really true. And so we'll probably continue to do at least one all client group call every month, no matter what. And what we want to start doing in that is making that something where it's not just me or the other coaches that are sharing, but it's clients who have gone out there and done something really cool, right? That's just how I'm going to describe it. Or other professionals, maybe getting a CPA in this call, maybe getting an attorney in this call, a construction attorney in this call. And so all that today is today's kind of our first launch of this. And we have the pleasure of having Mr. Lance Odell of Wright Flooring and Remodel, based out of the Austin, Texas area. He's going to be sharing today. And what he's going to be sharing on is basically the story of how he went from kind of starting a side kind of gig construction business while he had another full-time job to growing that into a full-blown remodeling company and flooring company that he was able to then actually sell to another entrepreneur. And so that's something that I have done with a number of clients, and it's something that I would really encourage everyone in the back of your head to make a big part of your retirement plan. Make a big part of your wealth building is being able to sell the business that you're currently in and that we are helping you grow and make better. And so I'm super excited about this because I'm personally curious to hear Lance's story of how he did it. What it's going to look like is I'm going to give it over to Lance, and then you guys, as you're listening, think about questions or insights or points of clarification that you may have after you hear him speak. And then we're going to open it up for more of a Q&A time with Lance directly. And so without further ado, Mr. Lance Odell, great to have you, sir.
Yeah, man. Thank you very much, Robert, the whole team, everybody. I appreciate you guys giving me this opportunity. I don't take it very lightly. I'm very honored to be able to speak to other professionals, like-minded people that are killing in the industry, out there grinding their, hand to the plow, making stuff happen out there for people in their houses. So I really appreciate all of you guys. First of all, my name's Lance. I work with my wife, and I kind of started our business. It's been about 13 years, I guess, since we started our company officially. I'm a third generation contractor. So my grandfather was a flooring guy in Los Angeles when it was like a union job. He used to make $150 a week laying floors, and raised 4 kids in a 2-bedroom house in South Central Los Angeles. And my dad did it. His brother did it, and of course he taught his sons how to do it too. So I remember being 7 years old, scraping up floors, or how to work a caulking gun, or trying not to spill paint on somebody's countertop or something. So just kind of been in the industry kind of my whole life, and which kind of led me to some other things. I'm not even sure if I told Robert and Bryce this, but actually got into some trouble when I was like in high school and ended up in prison, and did a couple years in prison. And when I got,
he did not tell me that.
I'm surprised.
But I love the vulnerability, and you've got that cool factor going for you, so it makes sense.
It's a part of the story, man. It makes sense, It's like you're not defined by your past, but by the things you do from there. And so, ended up coming out of prison, started working at a car wash, and just kind of one thing led to another. Started working at a retail store. I got back into the construction industry, working retail, and my wife and I, got jobs. We're actually, working somewhere full time. And my wife wanted to come home. And when she wanted to come home, she, we needed to supplement her income somehow. And so I started contracting again. I started lining up guys, doing flooring, doing like little odds and ends, word of mouth type of stuff. And it was actually during Hurricane Harvey era that our business just took off. We were living in Houston at the time, flooring industry, remodeling, putting back houses. I mean, there was just literally thousands and thousands of houses and homes that were were destroyed. And so we got a lot of reps doing that, and our business kind of became our main thing. So I guess it was 3 years ago, I met this guy. I'll try not to be too long-winded about this story, but I was doing a kitchen for this guy, and this guy was, this is in Austin. This is probably like a $5 million house. This guy's tattooed. He's, sipping coffee or kombucha or something. I don't know. He just did not seem like the kind of guy I'd even lived in this kind of house. And I asked him, I said, Mike, what do you do? And he said, I actually buy and sell businesses. And I said, really? And so we sat down on his patio and we had like a little 20-minute conversation. I told him that it had always been a dream of mine to sell my business, that I just didn't see myself being a contractor, at 70 years old. I know a lot of older guys that do it. My dad still is a contractor and still works for a contractor, and just it was never for me. It was never in the cards for me to finish out that way. And always dreamed of potentially building something that I could sell. And so Mike gave me this little like blueprint. This is what you should do, I think. And he didn't know this, but he kind of changed my life that day. After that, I went home and I told my wife that we were going to sell our business, and I knew how to do it. And I worked for like a solid year on just kind of behind the scenes doing everything I could that he had given me advice on doing. And almost a year to the day, I called him and I said, hey, I've been working on what you told me. I'd like to list my business for sale. And so he said, send me your financials, we'll look at it. And he replied right back and was like, yeah, I think we could sell it for this much. Sign some paperwork and we'll list it for sale. I told my wife about it. I was like, hey, we just listed our business for sale, by the way. Within about a month, we had an offer. Like, we had somebody literally willing to buy our business for what we had listed it for. And it started to become real. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know what we were really going to happen. And it ended up working out, best for us and also best for our now business partner, that he was going to buy half the business, and he was going to invest in us, help us build the company and potentially sell it for something more. And he and I have plans to build other businesses and things like that. But his name's Dan. He's not on the call right now, but he's a great guy. And honestly, just like a total, life-changing type of dude that came into my life. And so I want to just go over a couple of things that I think Mike gave me that day in his patio that helped me kind of get to this point. And then I'll open it up for questions. And the first thing was really knowing your numbers. A lot of times you're doing things and we're writing things up and we're writing quotes or this or that, and you're not really sure, how much money is in the account or where you're going to pay for this, or how much money you really made last month, or what this means in the P&L and all this stuff. And, so one of the things was just to tighten everything up and to learn about it. I didn't go to, I don't have a degree in accounting. I'm not an ex-accountant or something like that. But it was funny, when we were selling the business, Dan hired a third-party accountant to look at our books, to basically like a kind of deep dive exam. And he's a forensic accountant is what he's called. And this particular guy was an ex-IRS auditor. And he went through our books, was like, okay, well, we're probably going to have 3 years worth of numbers to look at. He actually went through 5 years. And 5 years ago, I was probably writing invoices on a napkin. I don't know what I was doing. But when he came back, of course, scrutinizing like daily, like I'm getting emails at like 11 o'clock at night, like what's this and what's this charge for? And apparently I set my QuickBooks up all wrong like 10 years ago, and I had to explain that. But he came back and he was like, hey, Dan, after my investigation, everything looks right. Everything looks real. And I was like, I was probably more surprised than anybody that I didn't, it didn't look like I was trying to pose some like fictitious business or something, but it was pretty amazing, and I will tell you, it was kind of gut wrenching too, for somebody to dig that deep into your books. But I guess the only advice to anybody doing it is just always do the right thing, I guess, because I'm not the smartest guy when it comes to accounting, but I know that we always just try to be fair and do everything the right way. That's the only way I can explain it. So, you know, knowing your numbers is a huge deal about your business. I would say another thing too that really stood out to me, and I think this is something like, I don't know if this is practical necessarily, you know, like this is something, you know, you could actually implement, you know, by doing X, Y, Z, but I really elevated my thinking. You know, as contractors, it's kind of our job to think of everything that could go wrong, especially, you know, service industry people. You know, you walk in and it's your job. You immediately walk into a situation and you're trying to discover what went wrong, right? And as a remodeler, as a contractor, as a builder, you know, you're thinking of everything that could go wrong, and your job is to plan and make it right. Unfortunately, though, a lot of contractors, at least I know in the industry, get so kind of swallowed up in this negative, toxic thinking that everything is wrong and things will never look up and things will never get better. And I started to, I mean, honestly, I didn't sound kind of like wokish or something, but I really did start like speaking and manifesting what I was wanting. I mean, I would tell my wife and tell my kids, we're going to sell our business and someone's going to buy our business someday. And it's funny, my wife would kind of laugh at me like, nobody's going to buy our business, you know, just so you know. But when I actually told her we have an offer on our business, I remember we all like celebrated and stuff that night. But it was I would truly say that, you know, where I am today, and even though oftentimes we look so much into the future, I can really feel that, you know, for some of us, the day you're living today is the day that you've been asking for. It's the day that you've been praying for, and we're living in it, you know, right now, today. You know, for some of us, this is the day we've been looking for it. And so I would say, you know, that I read this book, right? Robert, maybe you read this book before too. I know you're really well read. It's called As a Man Thinketh by a guy named Josh Allen. And he talks about how your mind is kind of like a garden, right? And so everything that you put into a garden, as you know, for those of us that garden or know anything about plants or something, you know, when you start planting good things in a garden, the garden starts to become fruitful. It starts to grow things and produce fruit. But when it continues to grow, it needs, James Allen, that's right. It needs to keep it getting bigger, you know? So the bigger the garden gets, the more fruitful it could become, and things like that. And our mind and our life is very similar. You know, when toxic things go into our mind, or we stay in this toxic way of thinking, only negativity, only bad circumstances, only those types of things can come from those types of thoughts, or that type of, I guess, energy that we have. And so as we begin to think higher and think bigger and you know, put different things into our mind, then naturally what happens is our surroundings have to get bigger. Your business has to grow. Your personal life has to expand, because your current situation can no longer handle the type of fruit that you're producing, or the type of things that are coming out of it. And so, I mean, I could truly contest to that. I mean, thinking, you know, starting in prison, working at a car wash, working retail, starting a business, and then now selling a business, it's like, you know, your thought life and where you stay has to continually grow. It has to continually expand. And so I don't know how practical that is, but I would just say that if your thoughts are not aligning with your future and the future that you want, there may be a reason for that.
We get behind that kind of thinking 100%, by the way. So
yeah, I know
it's not
you do.
wokish or anything to us.
Okay, I know you do. I said, you said I was from Austin earlier, and I don't want anybody, you know, getting too.
Hey, bro, it's still Texas. It's still Texas.
Yeah, that's right. God bless Texas, right here. There you go. So,
yeah.
Okay. The last thing was just not deterring from the goal. You know, I want to say, you know, if you have a goal, if you have a plan, just stick to it. You know, Mike Tyson said everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. a couple of days before we were literally we were closing the deal. We were trying to close the deal, ready to sell, and my plumber flooded somebody's house. Like last day of like a 6-week remodel, slip fitting came off. It was just a disaster. I mean, we're like standing in 2 inches of water, and the only thing I can think of is my life's over. I'm not gonna be able to sell my business now, you know. But quickly, filtered that thought out and thought it's not gonna matter. This is small stuff. We do this kind of thing all the time. And I would just say, just don't detour from that goal. Keep going, keep trying. Sometimes somebody will hear something really great from, your coach or from Robert, or read a book or something like that. And you feel like because you read this new thing that now everything about your plan has to change. And honestly, it's not really what it is. It's kind of adding to what it's confirming what you're already thinking, where you're already going. And so I would just encourage anybody that if that is your goal, know your business inside and out better than anybody. Because at the end of the day, what somebody's looking for when they sell their business, they're looking for numbers. They're looking for an attractive business, something that is actually making money. And my business partner said it to me like this. He's like, if you have a business that's actually making money, I mean, he's like, somebody's willing to buy it, because he buys and sells businesses all the time. And was like, if you're making money, somebody will buy it. So I would just say, know it, elevate your thinking that it could actually happen, and set a goal and stick to it.
That's so good. Well, dude, I appreciate that. That was such a great talk. And yeah, I want to get into specific questions here, and I've got a lot of like I guess more of the technical questions about how you actually did some of these things, right? And the process to doing that. But before I selfishly ask questions, I want to open it up. Anyone has a question, insight, feedback? Chase. Oh, bro, you're muted.
Yep. Oh, yeah. I'm logged in on a different email here, I guess. Hey, man, thanks for sharing that. And I guess my question here is, because we're in the beginning of starting a business and with the mindset of selling it. And the thing that we're working on right now is SOPs. And so I just kind of wanted to know how you started doing that, like how in depth you got with SOPs, or what did that SOP look like when you went to sell it, and how important was it to have SOPs written out?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because my business partner it's actually one of the first things he asked. Because in looking at selling, he wanted to make sure that he could hire somebody that could replicate what I was doing. And so I would encourage you, Chase, that whatever you're doing, right, as the business owner, and it's working, because it's working, you're in business, you're making money, put it on paper, write it down thoroughly, explain it and with the mindset that someone else is going to have to do this. And so that's how that's what an SOP is. That's how an SOP starts. And so I would just say start now. It's never too early, and there may be iterations of it and how it changed. Another thing though, Chase, is having some sort of like project management tool or software or something to be able to kind of host all the things that you are currently doing, because spreadsheets are not it's not all going to run on a spreadsheet someday.
Right. Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah, man.
Bren, what's up, buddy?
Hey, Lance, as far as what do you think was your biggest fear that held you back from making the biggest jump in your business?
Ooh. What specifically? Like what's tell me.
Like if you think about the biggest jump you made, like the biggest aha moment or the biggest move for you, what fear or what obstacle was in your way from doing that? When you hindsight, you look back, you're like, gosh, I should have done that forever ago. That would have changed everything, or that would have put me light years ahead of where I'm at today.
Yeah, in 2022, we made $1.4 million from a contract that we had doing flooring for this company. And I left them in 2023 as we were selling our business the same year. And I ended up replacing that income last year. So it took 1 year, but we replaced that income after we left that contract. And that was probably my biggest obstacle and scary, with walking away from a sure $1 million deal, so that I could expand, because it wasn't fruitful for where we were going. You know what I mean? It was like waking up and knowing that you had this blanket, but that blanket was strangling me at the same time. And I had to leave it. I had to walk away from it to be able to get where we are. So I would say, not being afraid. I would say it's very simple. It's like, if you're making money and you're doing something right now that's working, it will likely work if you change directions or you pivot also.
Right.
So don't let something that feels guaranteed or feels so secure hold you back from where you need to be.
But also being more selective,
Yes.
being okay to say no to something, even if it's money.
It was a part of growing, for sure.
Cool. Thanks.
Luca, you're next, buddy.
Hey guys, appreciate you sharing, man. That was very inspiring. One question I have is, what sort of revenue do we need to aspire to get to a point where people would be interested in buying a business? And do multipliers change as that annual revenue increases?
From what I understand about multipliers is it depends on your business itself, like the actual business. It also depends on your market. It's kind of like buying a house. A house is more expensive in this area than it is in this area. Well, that type of business may be more expensive in this area than it is in that area. So multipliers can change in that way. And what Mike explained to me was, if you're making 6 figures, there's somebody out there that's willing to buy a business so they can make 6 figures too. And that was kind of like my magic number, was like, if your business is producing enough money that somebody could have a 6-figure income, there's somebody that'll invest in that. They'll get a loan from the SBA. They'll borrow money. They'll do something to be able to have that kind of security.
Awesome. Appreciate that.
The only thing I want to add to that is Luca, typically as revenue increases, the multiplier increases, but a very important, and I would maybe say the most important factor to that kind of increase is your profitability. And so, that's kind of the questions I want to ask Lance myself is, selling a business in not just 120 days, 90 days, but 30 days is a very impressive thing. And a lot of time, if you have an attractive net profit margin, and like what Lance is saying, and you're paying yourself a decent, salary distributions, have a healthy net profit margin on top of that. Of course that looks good to so many people, of course that makes it very attractive to buy, and you can increase your likelihood of a multiplier in doing that. The thing I also have kind of gathered in buying and selling businesses is that there are different standards and methodologies you can follow to evaluate a business and create, multipliers. But at the end of the day, it's like selling a car or selling a house. You get to control what you want to sell the business for. That doesn't mean you can sell it for that price, but you can determine what you want for a business. At the end of the day, it's not, I used to think, when I didn't really know like finance or accounting, I used to think that there was like one official method to creating a price of a business. There's a bunch of different methods to doing that, and at the end of the day, you're the seller, you determine the price. Okay, let's jump to Aaron. I think you were next. He just disappeared from my screen for a second.
You're muted, Aaron.
Thank you. That'll probably work better. So yeah, thank you for sharing. I just had a question. Do you feel comfortable sharing how much you made off of businesses?
No.
No.
It was millions
Well,
and millions and millions.
Well, Aaron, maybe why are you curious to know that specific number?
Just because we're generating healthy revenue and we're on our way, and just to compare the two, to kind of have a mental, know
So are you
what the possibilities are.
Are you asking like, hey, can you give me an idea of maybe what I could sell? Is that something you can address, Lance?
Yeah, what I was going to say is, honestly, I would say the number was a healthy number that I had decided that it was okay to leave my business and what I had built. And I think that that's probably something that only you would know. And, you and your family or whoever has helped you grow this. And there's been people you probably want to take care of and people that you want to, thank. And also you got to think about an exit. Like, what are you going to do next? Because, still pretty young. Is that number that you would be willing to sell your business for? Is that number willing to walk away? Is that a good number for you to walk away from the whole thing for? Like that's only you will know that. But again, if you're making 6 figures profitability, they're going to multiply that in a construction business threefold, at least, depending on your market. And that's what you're going to end up selling it for. So
that's a really, really good general rule of thumb to follow. Is I think 2.5 to 3x multiplier for most of our clients. It's based upon your EBITDA, but you can basically think of EBITDA as net profits, right? Or net operating profits, maybe I should say. And so 5x, 3x that, and that gives you a good general range of what you can expect. It could be more, it could be less, depending upon what your profitability is and a number of other factors which are running through the business, all that, what your revenue is. But that's a good, really, really good general rule to follow that landscape. Russell, I've been anxious to hear your questions or what you have to say, man, because I know you kind of come from this world a little bit. And just reminder, you're muted. So.
No, I was just, Lance, when you were talking to Mike in the back porch, and he gave you the to-dos that you had to get to sell the business. Do you have that listing to share so we could kind of have a roadmap to go by to say, okay, I need to do this?
The blueprint that this guy Mike gave you,
maybe
some of the details of that blueprint is what I'm hoping to hear too, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing was the biggest, well, I'll have to probably type it out or something of some of the things he gave me, but I would say the most important thing was the numbers. He asked me questions about my numbers, about my profitability, about my margins, about debt, about things like that I just had not ever thought of. I just not ever thought would matter. He did ask about, they call it, what is it, like owner syndrome or something, Robert, where it's like the owner does everything kind of rises and falls on the owner. And that's a huge deal. That's an unattractive
100%
of selling a business. If the owner, everything rises and falls on what the owner does that day, that's not a good business model to buy. So yeah, having SOPs, having, project management tools, having, a system of what you do that someone else could easily follow, that's important.
Okay.
Yeah. And to stack on that, that's such a very important point. My dad and I went into a business together, totally different space. This was a few years ago. We bought an agency, like a marketing agency that is geared towards the medical spa space. And the business was presented as very attractive, but once the owners left, the revenue was very inconsistent. The owners were driving a lot of the sales for the business themselves. And we've been able to turn that around. But the first year of buying that business, we really struggled. And we felt like we were honestly duped a little bit. I mean, we made the decision at the end of the day. But that's such a great point. And that makes sense because typically if someone wants to buy a business or investors looking at a business, they may not want to be the primary operator. They may not know the business or the industry even that well. And what looks really attractive to someone is a business that can continue running without the owner at a healthy profit margin. I would say at least 15% net profit, but a 20% net profit plus is, very attractive. But that's really a very important indicator of whether or not you can sell your business. If you leave the business and the business falls apart, why would anyone want to buy that business?
Yeah.
That they can't. There's not a good. It's too much risk of a return of investment in the business,
Right.
and so really, really good point. Okay, we've got some questions in the chat, and we've got some hands raised. So let's Jim, Kolke, I think you were next, then Jordan, then Chad. We'll do that, and then we'll address some of these questions in the chat. We'll see Jacob too.
Mine's
Sorry, go ahead.
That blueprint, I'm very interested in the blueprint. I have sold businesses. I had a 3PL that I sold, but totally different market. We trade at a 25 on the EBITDA. So because it's recurring rev gen, because of contracts that we have with suppliers, and this is a totally different animal. So Four Seasons out of Chicago sold their business for, I think, 1.7 billion. And the reason why is because it's an HVAC industry, and back when money was cheap, they were paying 40x on the EBITDA. And that's sort of what I think the question the Albuquerque guy was asking. Asking somebody how much money they make is like pofa. It's not something you'd ever want to do. It's sort of shitty, but not that it's his fault. I'm a little different type of guy. I would want to know the EBITDA. That's all, the X factor on it. And you already said that 2 to 3 on the X. But that blueprint that you have is like gold. So I'd even pay you for it because that's how interested I am for it, because it's a different market. When you're selling a business, it has to be, if you're selling a health club, it trades on because of reoccurring rev gen on it. It trades different because the members, most of them don't go. And what you're doing, it's a huge thing to have for us if you want to even share it with us.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so I'm gonna, Lance, we'll talk after this about something around that and what that may look like, because it is a really valuable thing. Yeah, I really want to get something together, but we'll address the blueprint stuff afterwards, and hopefully can get something a little bit more tangible. Okay, Jordan Berry.
Yeah, I got just a fast comment and then my question, so I'll keep it short. But Robert Kiyosaki calls what you've been describing the difference between somebody who's self-employed and a business owner. The business that falls apart when you're gone is the self-employed business. A business owner is one that can leave for a month and things still run and you still make revenue. He also says the hardest transition is to go from self-employed to being a business owner. And Redmond Growth has been the biggest piece for me, helping me make that transition, because I was a self-employed guy and I was doing a really shitty job at it. But now I'm not. But my question is, and it's not to be smart, I promise, but if you have a business that's making really good revenue and is worth selling, why sell? What are reasons to sell a business?
Most important for me is I just didn't want to do it anymore.
That's a good answer.
Yeah,
that's a great answer.
that was enough reason. That was enough reason for me.
Yeah,
Jordan, you're a young guy, so I can understand why you're asking that question. I'm an older guy, and I want an exit strategy here, and that is selling my business. So I'm at the latter stage of my employed life, so it's different phases for different people.
And this is why I'm here, because I need to hear this stuff.
How I would answer that and summarize kind of both what Lance and Russell are saying is that you can sell a business for any reason you want. So let's say that you are, like I talked earlier at the beginning of the call about, every single client of ours actually making a potential exit strategy, a potential future sell in your business, part of your wealth and retirement building, right? Well, that could be the reason, right? You want to build wealth. You could sell your business because you want to buy a ranch and you need to make $1 million down payment and you got to sell your business for $1 million to do it. Like, you can sell your business for any, and that's why the plan and some of this other stuff that you typically don't hear about elevating your mindset and creating goals and creating a plan is such an important part of this, because otherwise we get stuck. I've been very guilty of this, of just working for years and years and years, and like, what am I even working towards? Like, what's the long-term vision here? And by default, oh man, who was it? I think it was it was one of the big sales motivational guys. I don't know if it was Jim Cathcart or Jim Colkey would know who this is. It wasn't Zig Ziglar. It was a guy like him though. But he has this quote where he says something like, if you don't create a plan for your life, by default, someone else will. And that's the reason why you should sell your business, is if you create a reason to sell it. So really, really good stuff. And I love just the directness. I didn't want to do this anymore. That's typically why people sell, So, all right, Chad Kulichek. Chad, you're on mute, buddy, if you can hear us.
Jim Rohn said that, Robert.
Yes, Jim Rohn. Thank you.
Oh, sorry about that. I switched Wi-Fi. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you great, buddy.
Okay, so just a little background. I'm an electrical contractor, been doing it for over 20 years. They made the transition of going into service, not relying so much on construction. And you guys are asking about the selling of the companies. The one thing that I did with Robert too is, Google reviews. I'm just about up to, I think I'm 3 shy of 1,000 reviews.
Wow.
And just that recognition, I've had brokers contacting me constantly. And last year was the closest I came to sell my company. And like Lance was saying, like numbers, in the transition period, get rid of the guy. And myself, the company on paper was, it was about 8 months of negotiating. But where the straw kind of broke was my departure. I didn't have that system, that side set up well enough to say, if Chad's not here today, what happens? So that's my new end game, is to get that side of the company fluid without me around. But I just want to raise my hand to say, the more recognition, just even that little aspect, the Google side of it, that gives you a lot more value in your company as well. There's a lot of brokers that are calling me just because of that, just for recognition in the metro that I'm in.
And real quick, the reason why brokers are calling him because of that is because, again, there's kind of this concept that we've been touching on, that is a very strong marketing asset, where if someone buys, there is a absolute guarantee of continuous opportunities to sell electrical services in perpetuity, right? So these are kind of some where you kind of get into the weeds a little bit of what makes a business valuable. You have this concept called, intangible assets, tangible assets. Tangible assets is typically like, your trucks and your tools and like the actual stuff that you own. And then you can have assets such as marketing assets, which give someone a guarantee or promise or low risk that they will continue to have opportunities to doing business that's not dependent upon anybody in the future. That's very valuable, right? So thanks for chiming in there, Chad. And then I think we had, was it Jacob? Jacob, you've had your hand up there, buddy.
Yeah, I'm here. Great. Actually, Chad, your response was, your question was perfect for me. So I've spent the past 7-8 years. I own a digital marketing agency. So my entire life has been built around building those digital assets, and there's different revenue streams via Google Ads, search engine optimization, and overall, technology overflow. So my question is, how much is that valued in the transition of a business? If I have 1,000 Google reviews, but also I can show, like, for some of my clients, I can show on a national ranking that our cost per conversion or our cost per lead acquisition is 75% less than the national average. But right now, their business doesn't have enough money to take um, full advantage of that. So inside of like a sales negotiation, where I can say, like, look, the way that we've set up these different infrastructures, one, we're ranking one on Google for these 5 search terms. Two, although we have low overall leads coming in, with just looking at our trends, you can see that if you were to take the $5,000 or what month we're spending on ads and make that 50, 60, which is something like a business that would acquire us will be more inclined to do, how much value does that have if it's like, yeah, we have these different channels and infrastructures set up, but we're not utilizing them to the full extent? Or on the other side of that, or we've spent a lot of money building these channels up, and that's something you don't have to do.
Well, I'll chime in real quick. The fortunate side for me too is that my brother-in-law he worked for a company that would acquire other companies. And so his job was to go into and take the analytics and break down the company's value. And he had a percentage for the Google side of the world. I want to say it was like 3.75%. So it's 0.75% on top of the, so I think our market at the time was like 3.65x. So we ended up being in like 3.25 or what the heck it was. And that was just from the presence online. And that was all natural. I don't have any Google ads or anything like that. That's just organic, Google reviews. So it is pretty substantial if you look at it that way for value of the company.
Cool. Cool to hear. Thanks.
Okay. So Jordan, I want to get to you in a minute if we have time, but I want to fire through some of these questions in the chat just to give Lance maybe a chance to respond to them if he has insight on it. And Lance, if you don't, that's totally fine too. But how does it work? Laura Pierce of Pierce Electric asks, how does it work with the contractor license board, and you can tell she's from California, and who holds the license when you are selling it?
Yeah, so we were going to have to transition. We are licensed in Louisiana, and not in Texas. You don't have to have a license to be a contractor in Texas. God bless Texas. But during the sales process, it did come up about who's going to take over our license. And so we were going to get, the new ownership licensed is what we were going to do.
That's pretty easy to do, at least maybe not for trade businesses, but most, like in the state of Washington, where we have a remodeling business, we just had to apply for a contractor's license.
Yeah, it wasn't hard. It wasn't like a hang up at all.
Yeah, like in most states, like Oklahoma, for example, and I think Texas this way too. If you're in like a trade, plumber, HVAC, electrical, something like that, you have to do your apprenticeship. You have to take a test to get your journeyman's license. You have to do that. Then you can take your master's or your contractor's test. Typically for construction in most states, you don't have to do that. And so, yeah, it's an important question, Laura, because you're an electrician. But I think the answer would still be what Lance said, which would be whoever is purchasing the business, someone a part of that organization has to be the license holder.
Exactly. And Laura, more than likely in your industry, because it is an electrician, you'd probably be selling your business to another electrician, somebody like starting out that wants what you have so they don't have to build it. That's kind of like what another type of person that buys, not just like an investor. A lot of times somebody that wants to buy your business is somebody who wants your name. It could be, a fresh, electrician with his own license, and he's going to get an SBA loan and he's going to buy your business so that he doesn't have to build what you've already built.
Really, really good stuff.
Real quick, what we were doing last year for my transition to exit is just that you vet from inside. And, I've kind of go through your good employees and the elder guys that you think could get their license. You just kind of encourage them to get prepared for that transition, and help them, get make them capable to take their contractor's test. Then you could have that as a strategy as well. Make them maybe part of the sell if you want, give them a little bit of piece of the pie, get them excited to take over for you.
Really good stuff, Chad. Okay. I assume net profit is net of your salary. Remodeling Wizards of Maryland. Lance, would you want to address that?
Yeah, so your net
profits and salary and what the difference is.
Yeah, so you have your net profit for your business, what the business made, and then you have the salary that you pay yourself as the owner. Well, the ownership moves, right, to the new person, and that may be ran by the person purchasing it, or some of that salary may be used for someone they hire to run the business for them. But either way, those things are considered net profit. There's a lot of things in the P&L that may not even realize that are not that will actually add into the multiplier of your company's value. Like, for instance, we had been giving to our church through our business for years, and so that number that was in there, that's actually considered a part of the company's profit because it was discretionary money that we were using that for the business, that we didn't have to, that a new owner wouldn't use. So there was actually like a little bit of money in there yearly that wasn't seen in the bottom line that the auditor actually found. If that makes sense. There's a lot of little things like that. There's a lot of little things like that contribute to net profit.
Yeah. Maybe a simple way to think about it is that, all the rewards that you get as an owner from a business, or all the additional money flow that you're deciding where it goes and maybe extra stuff, can be added almost to your bottom line to affect the actual multiplier. Yeah, so that's, you want to think about all the benefits that you personally are either receiving or giving to other like this, charitable stuff, or maybe, like, I know that my mom has a low salary on Redmond Growth payroll, and she's actually an official member of our board. The board meetings are insane, guys. It's me, my mom, and my dad. We got to record it sometime. But yeah, so that's how you kind of want to think about it. Okay. So there's another question here that I think is really important. But there's one more thing I want to say, and then Lance, I don't know if you have a little bit of extra time to answer a couple more of these questions. Before everyone hops off, I want to tell. So I work with another company for a number of years called Rogers Plumbing. They're based in Leander, Texas, right just outside of Austin, and they sold for a very good price. It's an amazing kind of success story. Part of the sell arrangement, if you are an owner operator, which you can negotiate possibly with the seller, and it's almost what Lance has done a little bit in a different style, is this private equity company that bought Rogers Plumbing had an agreement with Roger that he would stay at the company as an operator on a salary for, I think it was 18 months or maybe 2 years, as they were beginning to make a transition for him being out of the business. So if you're in that spot where you play a crucial role in your business and you want to sell, you want to take in mind everything that we've given you. If something is dependent upon you to drive new sales, especially, that's not very attractive. But if you're a key part in kind of holding the business together right now, and you would need time to maybe develop someone, a lot of times you can be an operator even after someone purchases your business for a certain time period. So I just wanted to say that kind of last thing. But Jordan, yeah, go ahead, Bryce. If you guys need to go, you guys can head out. Appreciate you being here. Whoever wants to stay, they can stay.
Yeah, keep it on. I'll stay on. We'll keep talking.
And I don't know if this is as common, but I know it is in your scenario too, Lance, that the guy who came to buy your business also had his own integrator with him in Kyle. Is that as common? Like, were other people also doing that? Like, they had their guy that was supposed to be the one that would take over your role?
It's a good question. So the reason why what made my business appealing to him was that one of the other businesses he had just bought, he figured that we would help each other. And so that was just, again, I don't know, like entering into the world of like who buys and sells businesses was a whole nother thing for me. And learning about the types of people who buy businesses and why and things like that. But honestly, Dan was looking for a business like ours to help his other business that he had also just recently bought. And so, I think there's a lot of different reasons why people buy businesses. And he did have a plan, I guess, to answer your question of how it was going to be ran. What worked out best was what we ended up doing.
Yeah, and Bryce, kind of like what Lance said, it's almost in the world of buying and selling businesses. It's kind of like a wild west out there. Like I know, for example, a lot of private equity companies are very interested in construction service businesses. Because as technology advances and changes, the entire like American infrastructure is built on these services, and it's an underserved market. And so, for example, in many sort of private equity companies, they will have a team, a management team to be able to go in and confidently run businesses, or they're working with an owner who's really experienced that they can, join in, or they'll have consultants and coaches like us, a part of their team. But I don't know if I would say that that's necessarily the norm. And I say that because I don't know if there really is a norm in this world. People make bad business purchases all the time too. People buy businesses that are, way more than they should and don't produce anything. And so, Jordan, what's up? What's your question?
Yeah. So, can you hear me? I thought it was muted. So I haven't thought this long term in a while just because we had so many things to fix this last year, but I've always been a believer in short term and long term. But all this talk about, what attracts people to buy a business, would it be beneficial at any point to consider just hiring a business manager and teach that person how to run and manage the business if you're thinking about a sale, just so that it could be a bit more attractive sale to a potential buyer?
Yeah, I think by the time you're ready to sell a business, there has to be some plan in there in place where, the business is already being ran that way. And has some sort of answer to that question already. It already has a manager, it already has somebody doing something like that. That's not you. But as far as like what makes your business attractive, honestly, the bottom line, nobody, to be honest, I've only sold one business, right? But nobody asked about how many Google reviews we had. What was quantifiable, what mattered was how much money we were making. And that was at the end of the day, it came down to gross, because they can choose to manage it or put in place somebody to manage it however they want, as long as they know the money's there year after year. That was kind of like the most important factor. And so some of the stuff that I thought like I was helping the sale of my business didn't really matter, because what they cared about at the end was, and honestly, probably the biggest part of the blueprint, in my opinion, was that you've got to have a proven source of income, whether it's contracts, or designers you work with or whatever, but mainly it was like contracts. That was kind of like the big thing. What can they rely on year after year that you already have?
Yeah, Jordan, having a again, I wouldn't even say that you have to have a manager in order to sell a business, just because, again, this theme is like, I 100% back everything Lance just said, is if you have something that's very profitable, that's going to look very attractive, right? And even the management and ownership and handoff and licenses and all that stuff will become conversations about how would we make that transition. And you can make that however you want to make that, however you come to an agreement. But, in anticipating or building a plan to sell, I would say that it's important to have certain administrators or managers of the business oversee certain departments on an as needed basis. But I would also say that a manager that you hired, even if they are the very, very best person, will never care about the bottom line as much as the business owner. So there's still, I kind of believe more and more that this idea that you can like build a business and then live on the beach and not be involved at all ever. I'm kind of skeptical of whether or not that's a real thing. You know, most owners I talk to can get a lot of freedom. They can go to a lot more beaches. They can do that. But to say that they never have to be involved, I don't know if that's fair, because someone has to care about the bottom line. And if someone's pay isn't affected by the bottom line, no one's going to care about it. You know? So that's how us as owners, our pay is affected. So anyway, okay, Mick of Eklund Duck Cleaning. Lance mentioned Mike being a broker. How do you go about finding a broker? Are they national, national-wide, state by state?
I recommend remodeling his kitchen. Is a good good way to meet one. It was totally by chance, man, but honestly I believe I manifested that meeting. But anyways, no, there are businesses and companies that's all they do. In fact, they said that it was a study, it was like the largest exchange of wealth happens through the transfer of businesses. Like in America, it's like the largest, you know, from people passing them down or people buying and selling, acquisitions. Like it is actually like kind of like another world behind the scenes that a lot of people don't know about, of people buying and selling businesses. And there are literally, so this particular guy, I know Mike, he owns a business and he has like almost like a Craigslist. It looks like Craigslist, but it's businesses for sale. And in order to get access to it, he has to kind of like vet you to make sure you're serious and you sign an NDA and all this other stuff. And then he'll give you access to be able to shop businesses that he is listed for sale. But there is national, you know, firms and brokers and people like that this is literally their job. This is what they do.
Yeah, the way to think about it, Mick, is almost like real estate a little bit. You know,
Yeah.
is there are full brokerages, and you know, you don't have as many people buying businesses like you have people buying houses, so they're not as well known. But there are so many different types of brokerages that are very local in a city, that are state by state, that are national. And so I know Tim Redmond, my dad, is kind of this guy who's like behind the scenes, and like maybe you guys wonder, like, does this guy actually exist? He does. He's actually in the office right next to me right now. But that is kind of was our plan when him and I went to business together in 2016. Is our plan from the beginning was me being the new operator of Redmond Growth, me owning a portion of the business, and then him moving on to the buying and selling businesses. And he has, in that process, gotten involved with a number of different brokerages and has even received some training on it. And so there's brokers all over the place. If anyone was ever really interested in finding a broker, we could facilitate that. Know that whenever you're using a broker, like I mentioned earlier, like real estate, you're paying a commission, a fee similar to real estate as well. The fee percentages can vary, but the percentage is small, but typically it ends up being a lot of money, you know. So anyway, just stuff to keep in mind regarding brokerages. Okay, anything else? I think we're good. Lance, thank you so much, man. This was such a great call. And yeah, again, we'll have Lance more involved in the future. And we may be tapping on some of your guys' shoulder to see if you'd want to be involved in a similar capacity that Lance was. I think a lot of learning and development can take place by people who have done things, who have demonstrated what they've done, then sharing it with other people who are maybe in their shoes now, you know, or were in their shoe, or you know, the person talking was in your shoes years ago or whatever. So all that to say is, Lance, for anyone that's on, if we can give Lance a big thank you, round of applause.
Thank you.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, thumbs up. I'm not the only one. Lance, thank you so much for being here. Guys, we're gonna record this call pretty quickly. I want to get it uploaded pretty quickly. I've always talked to Bryce about it. And we're going to send out an email to you guys with this call. So if you want to go back and use it, digest it, or if you have more questions, bring it to next week's call as well. So thank you so much for being here, and let's count down growth on 3, 3, 2, 1. Grow!
Thanks, everybody. Thank you.
Appreciate you guys. Have a great week.